Thank you for stopping by. Hey, I'm Miguel Ramos, Product Manager for Firebase AI Logic at Google.
And I'm Rosário. I'm a Developer Relations Engineer on the Firebase team at Google.
And today we are going to talk about a shift in how you build or you can build applications with generative AI. So this is what we're going to cover right now. So first one, we are going to explain what is Firebase AI Logic, of course. The second thing is we are going to talk about why a client-side architecture sometimes is a good approach. The third one, we are going to talk about wonderful customer stories. Third one, we are going to talk about production readiness. We're going to talk about how to protect your prompt, your API keys, how to save cost. Then we are going to do a demo. We did a video demo we recorded just in case it didn't work. It's a cool demo. We're going to talk about hybrid inference on device. Very cool stuff. And that's it. It's just plenty of topics. So let's start with the basics. What is Firebase AI Logic? So first of all, Firebase AI Logic is not an AI SDK. It's a Firebase service with a dedicated server infrastructure designed for help you to integrate generative AI scenarios into your apps in production. Just, I want to double check that everybody get it that upfront is a managed service. It's no wrapper. So there are servers behind the scenes doing a lot of work for you, simplifying your life. And importantly, is GA since 2024. So it's a proven solution used for thousands of customers making millions of calls. And of course, it is built on the top of the Google Cloud platform, like other Firebase services. And it's a Google Cloud compliance, means you have exactly the same quality in terms of reliability, support, scalability that any other Google Cloud product. So today, AI Logic is handling millions of Gemini calls and thousands of applications out there. So what is the point of Firebase AI Logic? So why people should use Firebase AI Logic? So first of all, thinking about how the things are. When you need to add generative AI into your apps, if you want to call the Gemini API, basically you need to use a server SDK. It could be an SDK for agent. It could be the Google Gen AI SDK for just doing calls to their Gemini API. It could be something else. Once that you have these Gemini calls in your backend, you need just to expose all this functionality to your mobile webcam application. So basically, you need to define a sort of service layer. This is an amount of work. Several hours of work, days of work, coordination between maybe different teams. It's something that you need to continue servicing, updating, all this stuff. So what we are doing is let's eliminate all this complexity. Let's make the thing super simple for developers. Why not to allow to call the Gemini API directly from the client, and we do the rest of the stuff. We take care about the scalability, the security. We take care about how you can communicate with the Gemini APIs, and you directly focus in creating and adding the generative AI experience. For example, this is just a Kotlin code with 3 lines of code in your Kotlin application, in your Android application. So you just call the Gemini API. So 3 things. First of all, specify the model. Second thing is generate the content. Third one, get the response. That's it. You don't need to touch your backend. And this is Kotlin. We have something for iOS as well. We have something for Flutter, React Native, Unity, Web. Basically, we have plenty of SDK for any language. What that means? That means is you can save many, many hours of development just doing this. All right, the question that many times we have is, hold on, Miguel. So why I should use client SDKs, when I already can use the service SDKs, I can build the things for myself. I have a lot of flexibility out there. So why I should go with this client-side proposal architecture? And it's a very fair question. So let me explain why you can just do some trade-off for yourself and maybe go with this client proposal. First one is you stay in your native language of your platform. If you write code for iOS application, maybe you are using Swift, you can call the Gemini API in Swift. You don't need to switch. If you are working in Android, you can use Kotlin or Java. Flutter, you can use Star. So basically, you are saving time in switching the context or even talking to somebody in the backend who had to understand your scenario and write code in TypeScript or Python. Well, that means that with Firebase AI Logic, you don't have a second stack. Or your code calling the Gemini API is exactly the same code, exactly the same source of code that you already have for your app. Other advantage is, hey, there are certain things that are very client-specific. Let's put focus on the first one, in the Gemini Live API. This is the conversational API, where basically you can talk to the model, and the model responds to you in a very natural way. So without any kind of client support, you need to handle, hey, open the WebSockets, stay the connection alive, send information for the channel of the WebSockets to the client, then go back to the WebSockets. Then you need just to resume, pause depending on the connection. Basically, you need to build a server-client solution over there. And we have plenty of samples about how you can create that. But why not just do 3 lines of code, do all this work for you, and you don't need just to pay the cost of developing all these solutions. So this is one thing. The other thing is on-device, mobile on-device inference. There are things that are perfectly suitable for client-side. When your application is offline and you need just to run inference, the right place to do it, of course, in the client-side, wherever is your mobile application, your web client-side. Also, the advantage of using the model, hybrid model inference is in case that you need for some privacy, it can be running directly from the device. Another thing is about the costs. Running inference on the device have no cost. So, and this is perfectly suitable, only possible if you are doing from the client side. More stuff. When you go to the client side, you don't have to giving up anything. We already have everything that is expected in any kind of AI SDK. For instance, yeah, we support multimodal input and output. We have chat experiences, context caching. We have building tools so you can do some search grounding. User prompt, system instruction, function calling, structure, JSON input and output, blah, 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 blah. Everything that you are expecting is out there. So there is no trade-off that you have to make. The other thing is you're going to use an infrastructure that it was tested by thousands of apps making millions of calls. It's a very well-battled solution. And that simplifies a lot of your development. So basically, there is no additional work for you to take care about the security, to take care about monitoring the platform, to take care about how to scale that. You have the right tools inside of Firebase AI Logic. So yeah, this is some strong arguments that you can use and put on, in a trade-off and thinking about what is best for you. And many times it's not about choosing one versus another. Many times is in your system, you have a scenario where you can use server, you have a scenario you can use client, and it is very common. You can use both approach exactly in the same app. Let's talk about real customer who have application in production using by thousands of users out there. Let's start with Redbus. So Redbus is the leading brand for selling train and tickets. So this is a customer want to collect more customer feedback in their massive user base. So they deployed a voice-to-text review just to give them feedback and a rating experience. What happened is they needed to put this in production very quickly for hundreds of thousands of users, and they did it, and they get 50% increase in review length and a good increase in overall volume of reviews. Another one is Macrofactor. Macrofactor is a very cool nutrition app. They have right now like a 400,000 active subscribers, paid subscribers, and the engineering team is only 2 persons. So they need to implement all this logic where, hey, I want to take a picture of my food. I need to break down all the ingredients, tell me the calorie, tell me this is good for me, it's a good recommendation. And they really do it. They really do it in Firebase AI Logic in a record time to the market. With only 2 engineers using all these multimodal AI feature with analyzing image, generate text, JSON schemas, and all this stuff. Another one, Moi, created for the CodeMate company. So the challenge of Moi was, they have a huge volume of customer support requests. They need just to go into some manual step or cranky mini out there. And they thought, what if we create a chat experience, and this chat experience is able just to take actions for the users. So basically, if the customer is asking me for the PUC code, let's do the agent call, return the PUC code for them. Plenty of scenarios like that. What I mean is, we were able just to grow and scale more the support in double digits, and also they boosted the number of ratings from in between 4 and 5 stars. All right, talking about how to use Firebase AI Logic is very straightforward. You see 3 lines of code, everything is working, the onboarding experience is super smooth, something that you can have ready in between 5-10 minutes. It's not a big deal, right? Actually, this is a QR where you can find all the documentations. The hard part, the really hard part, is how to make an app ready for production. What are the techniques that you need to use to making sure that your app is completely secure? You need your prompt and protective, that you are using the right saving approaches out there. And we are going to talk about all this stuff with Rosário.
Thanks, Miguel. So when we talk about production readiness, we're talking about a specific checklist. You need to protect your app from abuse. You need to safeguard your model interactions, secure your prompts, monitor everything, reduce code liability, and of course, control your costs. So I'm going to walk you through how Firebase AI Logic can help you do exactly that. Starting with security. The golden rule of Firebase AI Logic is that it never exposes your Gemini API key on the client device. As you can see in this diagram, the API keys are kept securely on Google servers. The first line of security uses Firebase authentication, which issues ID tokens, which are typically valid for 60 minutes. You can use authentication to ensure that only authenticated users can access your AI features, giving you a solid security baseline. But Firebase authentication only tells us who the user is. It doesn't tell us what is making the request. A bad actor could, for example, extract your authentication token and use a script to spam your AI endpoint and then raising your bill. So that's where AppCheck comes in. AppCheck generates short-lived tokens as short as 30 minutes and validates requests against device attestation providers such as Play Integrity for Android or Device Check on iOS. That helps you prove that the request is coming from a legitimate, untampered app. And for the most security-conscious apps, we're introducing replay attack protection. This is a new feature in AppCheck that makes AppCheck tokens strictly single-use. That means that if a token was used once, they cannot be extracted to be reused again. They only last for that single request, so it cannot be replayed. So the origin of the request is secure, but what happens to the content of the request itself? If you look at the top 10 vulnerabilities for LLMs, the biggest threats aren't really network attacks as we're used to. They're actually prompt injection, sensitive information disclosure, and sometimes outputting offensive or improper content. So to fix that, you need guardrails. That's why we're integrating Firebase AI Logic and the Gemini Enterprise Agent Platform with Model Armor. By enabling Model Armor in your Google Cloud Console, every request and response flowing through Firebase AI Logic is going to be inspected. It kind of acts as a shield. It checks for prompt injections or jailbreak attempts, and it scans the model's output to ensure that you aren't leaking any PII or generating toxic content. If a policy is violated, Model Armor is going to block the request or modify the response before it reaches the user. It's enterprise-grade AI safety without any need for complex filtering logic in your app. Another security risk is how do you handle your prompts? Crafting a great prompt, complete with system instructions, tone guidelines, JSON schemas, takes a lot of trial and error. And trust me, I know this from experience. And that prompt becomes sort of like your intellectual property. If you hard-code that giant prompt in your app, it could get exposed. Someone could dump the memory, or they could intercept the network request and steal your secret sauce, the prompt. To solve this, we built server prompt templates. As you can see in the code snippet, instead of putting the full prompt in the app, you just store it securely on the Firebase console or on the Firebase side. And your app only needs to call a template ID. So in this example, it's storyteller v10, and then pass the necessary variables, like the input variables, like topic or language. The server is going to compose the final prompt, merge the variables, and execute the call. And this does three things. First, it completely hides your prompt from the client side. Two, it prevents prompt injection because your client now relies on strict, validated parameters. And then three, it accelerates your iteration cycle because if you now need to tweak a system instruction or maybe swap to a new Gemini model, you just update the template in the Firebase console. The changes will go live instantly for all your users, and you don't need to publish a new App Store update. Of course, if your prompts are sitting on the server, you still need to know exactly what is being sent to the model. And that's where AI monitoring comes in. It's built right into the Firebase console, and it gives you observability into every call that is made to Firebase AI Logic. You can inspect the traces, check for latency, monitor token usage, track costs, and more importantly, see the exact string that was generated for the server prompt template. If a user gets an odd response, you can look up the trace and debug what happened. Let's move on to the developer experience. When you build production software, every line of code that you ship is code that you have to maintain. Previously, implementing features like function calling, which allows the model to trigger actions on your app, required writing a lot of tedious schemas and JSON parsing, and it's a lot of boilerplate code. We're trying to eliminate that. We're introducing type-safe automatic function calling, which means that you only need to define a simple data class, like the one here, add points params, and then the SDK will automatically do some things for you, like infer the tool schema, register the schema with the model, and handle all the serialization and deserialization. This means you get to write less boilerplate code. There are also times when you need to write custom business logic between your app and the model. Maybe you want to verify a user's subscription tier to enforce certain rate limits, or maybe you need to parse the prompt manually to block specific keywords before it reaches the Gemini model. To enable this, we are introducing Cloud Functions triggers specific for Firebase AI Logic. You can write a Cloud function that triggers before generate content or after generate content. Let's see an example. In this example, you can see a before generate content function, and you'll notice that you have access to the whole request object. And you can use that along with the authentication credentials to validate the credentials, to remove any data, or even append additional data if you need. Or as the example shows, you can also do some, write some conditional logic to eliminate certain keywords. And finally, let's talk about unit economics. In many scenarios, we're sending the same chunk of context to the model. Especially if it's like for an enterprise, it could be like a giant company policy document, or there's a specific code repo that the AI needs to reference, or maybe a long video that tells the AI what to do, such as like prompt instructions. And we often send these over and over again to the model. And sending this over and over again, we're not just expanding a lot more tokens, we're also creating higher latency because we're sending a large file. You can optimize that using explicit context caching. With explicit context caching, you upload that large file that you're sending constantly to the model to the Gemini API. You upload it once, you set an expiration time, and then you get a cache ID. In your server prompt template, you're going to reference that cache ID. Now, whenever the user prompts the model using this template, the model only has to process that user query and no longer process the big file because it's already cached in the Gemini API. So I'll pass it back to Miguel to do us a demo.
Thank you, Rosario. He talked about many things, plenty of things, right? I'm going just to show you a demo where he's going to play with some of those. Not all of those because it's too many things, but some of those. Some of these features are right now available, other and coming pretty soon, like cloud triggers, which is something that we are expecting the following weeks just to be out there for everybody. For this demo, we created an end-to-end business solution. It's called Memo Tattoo. Actually, I make it public last week. So all the source code that you see here is already available, so you can play with. In this Memo Tattoo app, the idea is, hey, let's make the users to create flashcards about several topics, generate all these topics and all these concepts, and play with the flashcards so you can just learning all the things in a very funny way. We have two parts. One part is my business, where is the admin console, where I'm going to create hundreds of flashcards. Also, I'm going to manage everything about the customer token, expenses, blah, 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 blah. And the other one is the Android app, where the user install this app, they can create just personal flashcards, but also you can play with the ton of flashcards decks they are already out there. So let's start with the web app. So this is a Memo Tattoo. It's an Angular app. So basically, the creator create like dozens of flashcards. You see about several topics. You see like classic literature novels or dogs. I love dogs. Let's play with the dogs. So see, a flashcard is an image plus a concept plus a description. All these images were generated with Nano Banana. See how beautiful they are. The reason why I love docs is because I already have 5 docs. Yeah, why not? So the thing is, all this process that you see out there is using server prompt templates in a very easy way. All my prompts are protected, all the system instructions are protected. Let's play with another scenario. In this scenario, I'm going to create a deck with the several flashcards. I'm going to write down a topic, in this case, muscle of the body. Let's generate this topic, click the button. This is real time, see how fast it is generating these concepts, because in this case, I'm using Gemini 3 Flash Light Preview, and play with that. Also, they generate all the things from me. I'm going to click a button, regenerate more, and also can explain to the Nano Banana what is the arc direction. I'm going to start to generating a lot of Nano Banana images in parallel. See, I'm clicking a lot of things. Yeah, still it's going to be a little slower than generating text, but even though it's an acceptable time. So let's see how the things that are generating this. So beautiful, see, some Da Vinci style. I really like it. I think in a couple of 10 seconds right now are going to be everything generated. I'm using the Enterprise Gemini API. To know that Firebase AI Logic can use the developer APIs and the Enterprise API. The Enterprise API is the Gemini Enterprise Agent Platform. Before it was called like Vertex AI. See? Let's publish, so that means that it's ready for the users just to play with that. All right, next scenario, I'm going to show you the code. Let's take a look how simple is the code right now. I'm using the server prompt templates. The first thing I need to do with Firebase AI Logic is to specify the Gemini API. In this case, is the Enterprise Gemini API. Second thing is, let's take a look how it looks like a template in code. This is the template ID. The next one is I need to specify the parameters. You will see topic and known concepts. Like Rosário say, there is no system instruction, there is no user prompt, there is nothing out here. Then we generate the content, and once that you generate the content, you get the response, and that's it, right? And all the server prompt templates work in exactly the same way, regardless they are creating a text or they are creating an image. In this case, this is the one who is using the Nano Banana one. Let's take a look how it looks like in the Firebase console. So there is a site in the Firebase console with say server prompt template. You have a bunch of server prompt template. I click on one. You will see that in a specification using the dot prompt. You see all the input and the output schemas with the definition, with all the constraints. And this is very cool. You can say that, hey, only accept parameters like numbers or characters. You can even use regular expressions. Basically, all the template looks like that. You have the definition of the configuration of the model, and then you have a part where you define your system instruction and your user prompt. Let's go with the next step. We were talking about cloud triggers. Hey, I am firing a request to Gemini. I will want to catch this Gemini call before go there and do several stuff. This is the reason why we use cloud function triggers. In this case, we have this event R, I have the cloud trigger, I have all the information for auth out there. The thing that I'm doing easily is say, hey, if this user doesn't have enough tokens, block the call to Gemini. So the Gemini call is not even executed. That gives you a lot of flexibility just to do whatever you want in these cloud triggers, regardless making sure that the user is already authorized to do the things, even changing the context. You can add in additional information to that. Let's go with another scenario, the Android part. This is the Android app where, yeah, you see the user with a lot of settings. Yeah, you already see that there are going to be some kind of gain subscription for the user. In this case, the user is already paying for this app. There is a plenty of public decks. This is the public decks that you really see in the admin console. The idea is, let's make an engaging experience using Firebase AI Logic. And here we are planning again. So AI Logic, the model is already giving some hints about what you should guess. And it's doing a very funny way. Basically, try just to making sure that you are not bored playing with that and animate you just to continue playing with the game. So are you expecting all this back and forth between the chat experiences, moving from one card to another, even if when you guess right, getting some points, all the things are using Gemini AI Logic with server prompt templates and also with automatic function calls. Means the code to generate this is basically almost nothing, super reduced, very simple and straightforward. We will see this a little better. So yeah, let's take a look to another more sample. In this case, I think it's going to play a little more, say this is arms, no, this is the elbows. I'm pretty sure it's the elbows. I watched this video 10,000 of times. So yeah, 10 points. Another one, this is a neck. You see the 10 points. Every time that you get something, the model is asking a request to the get points. Everything is done underneath with automatic function calls. Game over. Nice. Another scenario is creating a deck. So basically, you can create a deck for your personal use inside of this app. Exactly the same spirit that you see before on the web. But it was very quickly, I will show you the next slide. What happened is, I'm a user, I'm trying to create a deck. To create a deck, I need additional coins. I don't have these coins. So basically, the cloud trigger is capturing this request, say that, hey, you don't have enough coins. I'm going just to block that. I did a screenshot about the message that show up in the video very quickly. So that's something that you can build very straightforward easily. Let's take a look to the code. So how look like this code, this real code over there. So this is the template functions. Basically, you define the functions that the model, the AI logic is going to call automatically. In this case, we have add points. You see over there. We also have below the next concept. And once that you have the add point and next concept, you go into the template and say, hey, this is the list of the tools that you can call. And the model, when find out that they need to call that, is going to request to make that calls for you. Once that you define that, the easy part is just start the chat, start the conversation. So basically, is one part, define the templates, the function. Second part is define the model and tell them what is the function to call. Third one is start the chat. That's it. If you are writing code for function calling before, you know how complicated was that. And this is how it look like in the server prompt in the console. It's exactly the same template that you see before. So you're going to find from matter information, some configuration of the model. You have a system instruction. You have a prompt for the user. And the magic that do everything, automatic function calling and the chat experience is one history thing out there. It's a parameter out there that is doing all the hard work for you. And this is something new. It's ready right now. You can start using that.
All right, so last topic before we wrap up. Hybrid inference. So what if in Miguel's demo we wanted to also run some scenarios offline, giving users zero latency and also zero API cost for us? Since we're already working on the client, it's easier than you think. And the hybrid approach is about giving us the best of both worlds. So in the cloud, you have those massive, powerful models, but on some devices, you already have a model like Gemini Nano. Running AI locally means that you get lower latency, data privacy because the data never leaves the device, and no API costs for you, the developer. Right now, about 5 to 10% of Android devices support on-device AI, but that hardware base is growing very fast. So with Firebase AI Logic, you don't have to build two separate execution paths for whether the inference should be run on device or on the cloud. The SDK will handle that for you. And the way it does it is by using this specific inference mode. So for example, prefer on device, that tells the SDK to check if an on-device model is available on the user's device. It could be an Android phone. If it does, run the inference on that model. If not, go to the cloud to run the same inference. We launched this feature very recently as an experimental feature. So let's wrap up. We've talked a lot about Firebase AI Logic, about how it's robust, secure, and it lets you bypass complex middleware and get AI into your user's hands. But what's next?
What's next? Start building application with Firebase AI Logic. So deploy apps in production like thousands of customers are doing right now, making these millions of calls. So doing confidently, it's a ready for production service. Second one is please take advantage of the security feature that we really have in Firebase AI Logic. Use app check. Never put in production an application without app check. It's ready to protect you. The second thing is use the server prompt template. Protect your prompts. It's already there. Third thing is use the AI monitoring. Use the context caching just to also play with the Android new SDK that we really released for hybrid. Is experimental right now, but your feedback is super critical for us. We are listening to your feedback. We want to make sure that the things that we are building is useful, and your feedback influence our roadmap, really influence your roadmap. So we are here for you. More stuff, please scan this and go to the UX research survey. That will help a lot to our friends. And the last one is your feedback is really appreciated as well for this talk. So that's it.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.